Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Straight Talk for the Soul series. I'm Carrie Murphy, your host and the creator and founder of this global broadcasting community. Welcome to our listening family. I want to thank you so much for the gift of your time and your presence today. If you haven't subscribed to this show, please do so. It is free. You'll get news about upcoming shows, replays, and lots of free gifts. Just go to straighttalkforthesoul.com. You can also find us now on iTunes and YouTube and Facebook, and we encourage you to share our emails with anyone you feel would benefit from this information, because I love seeing this family of light expanding. And as you know, I love walking this journey with all of you. I want you to feel like you have a safe space to go every day, a place to feel at home and feel supported. And I'm really grateful to each of you for the light that you contribute to this community. And I want to take a brief moment and thank all of you for the wonderful notes and cards and messages and all the love regarding the passing of my precious grandmother, Mimi, this past weekend. She lived a full and vibrant 94 years on this planet and was a tremendous gift and continues to be. I spoke quite a bit about it on yesterday's show with Emalani and devoted Sunday's Empowerment Hour to the topic of death and transitioning from the soul perspective. And I'm grateful that many of you have emailed and really felt comforted by the messages, and that's always my intention. So thank you again for all the love. It is gratefully received, and I extend it back multiplied. And now I am feeling inspired to ask my favorite question, and that is, what is the best that could happen today? Intend for the greatest expansion, connection, healing, the greatest activations, the greatest openings of your heart. And with that said, if you feel inspired, I invite you to place your hand on your heart and breathe and relax and open and, of course, smile and just give yourself the gift of lightening up with us today, because today, my beautiful friends, we are going on another soulfully activating adventure. The wonderful Wendy Kennedy is my co-creative partner for today. Our intention is to support you in embracing your divine light. On this call, Wendy and the guides will discuss moving beyond your current limitations, what it means to stand in your power, why it's important to let go of expectation. We'll talk about releasing your fears of embracing your divine light. And Wendy will channel the ninth dimensional Pleiadian collective that she calls the P's and allow them to share their perspective on reclaiming your authentic self. We will also try to take some live callers later. So press *2 to raise your hand if you've called in by phone. And you can also submit your questions in the webcast Q&A box if you've joined us by computer. We have a lot to look forward to today, so allow me to tell you a bit about Wendy and we will get started. Wendy Kennedy is an intuitive. She's an empath and a channel. And for more than 2 decades, she's used her gifts and abilities to work with beings in other realms and dimensions, assisting others in recognizing and releasing old patterns and helping them to live more whole, integrated lives. The clear and compassionate wisdom shared through Wendy facilitates a shift in perspective from separation and limitation to connection and multidimensional existence. It was in 1995 when Wendy began channeling, working first with her own angelic guides before becoming reacquainted with the ninth dimensional Pleiadian collective, who she primarily channels at her public events and in private sessions. Wendy also works with beings from Sirius and Arcturus and Cassiopeia and Andromeda, as well as other higher dimensional celestial beings. And in addition to direct channeling, the guides work through Wendy, with the language of light and the galactic light codes, which are symbols that represent this cosmic language. And Wendy currently lectures and channels for clients around the world. And she was one of the 6 channels featured in the movie and the book Tuning In, Spiritual Channelers in America. And her work is also featured in the book The Great Human Potential, Walking in One's Own Light, which is now available in 7 languages. I am so grateful that she's back here. I know that all of you love her so much. So please join me in extending waves and waves of love and light and appreciation to Wendy as I welcome her back to the show. So Wendy, welcome, beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be back here with you. You are so lovely, and I always enjoy being here with you. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome, Wendy. Like I said, you are very loved, and not only in this community. When the people hear that you're coming back, they're like, "Oh, yes, Wendy's back." So, very excited about it. And for those who may be new to you, I don't think you're. Probably not the case for many people in this community, but Wendy, like I said, you've been channeling since 1995. Okay, how do I want to phrase this? How has this connection to these divine beings, primarily, how has it changed your life and your perspective?
I don't know quite how to answer that because it was still in my formative years when I was reacquainted with them. So I can't imagine them not being a part of my life. But they certainly have guided me and helped me along the way and really taught me their own version, their own philosophy of how to live a connected life. Doesn't mean I'm always doing it, but they certainly have taught me the philosophy of it. Just like everybody else, I have my own struggles and places where I'm in resistance. But, it's kind of amazing to me because I, for years, didn't read any other books. I wouldn't look at any other material because I didn't want to be impacted by it. And now I've, started opening more into other materials, and I see that what they've been teaching me for 25 years is the same thing that has been said in so many different ways by so many different traditions. So, they're my family, in a sense, my second family. And, their advice is invaluable. Their love is precious to me. And I just can't imagine what life would be like without them. Boring, probably.
Wendy, do you find that the information that comes through is practical as well as cosmic? I imagine the answer is yes, but sometimes people might think, because, we're connecting with these higher dimensional beings that it may be purely cosmic. But I do feel like a lot of what you share is very practical in nature. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the one thing about the piece that people find very relatable. It's that it is very grounded in practical advice. It's not too woo-woo. It's a little bit, because we're talking about galactic information, but not so much. It's really how do you break things down into their most basic components and how do you apply that to an earthly life. I call it galactic wisdom for an earthly life because it really is. And at the beginning, when I first started channeling, the information was much broader. They would talk more about different star systems and things that happened in the galactic community. And then really within the last 5 or 6 years, they have started to kind of bring that more and more back to your world. What are you doing? It doesn't really matter what's happening outside of you. Let's focus on you. Let's get your inner work done. And so that requires a very practical perspective. So I would say for galactic beings, they're very grounded.
And grounded and galactic, a great combination. And I think that's wonderful, Wendy, because I found that to be the case with a lot of the beautiful beings who come and speak on the show. Everything is about what is applicable here and now for us instead of taking us away or taking us out of our physicality. What can be beneficial for us in terms of navigating the adventure here, because it can be challenging. And so let's talk about some of the biggest challenges or stumbling blocks that the guides say that people are dealing with right now. What are they saying?
I think right now in the collective, I think there's a lot of fear going on, clearly, about just the instability in the world. And one thing that the guides are constantly discussing is that it's really about you deciding how you want to feel and how you want to show up in the world instead of reacting to it, so that you can stand in peace in the midst of chaos, so you can be the way shower, so that you can be the living example for others. And that's really how we are able to be of the greatest service, by showing up in the highest way. And, we're looking for kind of archetypes, or we're looking for examples of new ways of governing or new ways of creating our reality, and we're looking for that form outside, and it doesn't exist right now because we're in the midst of building it. We're creating new foundations for ourselves, and that's a scary place for most of us because we like to control things. We like to know how they're going to be before we even step into the energy. And so what they're asking us to do is really start to work more and more with frequency and let go of the idea of form. They talk a lot about the process of manifestation, and in that you really have to start with your state of being, because your state of being informs everything that you do. So as we're going here, especially now, as we're coming to the end of the year and we're starting a new year, what is it that you want to create? How do you want to show up? Making those vibrational selections and not worrying about the details, how am I going to get it done, but rather being in a vibrational space that's a match for that thing that you're asking for. And you might not know what it looks like, but you can recognize the signature when it's in front of you. You say, oh, well, that's what I was asking for. I didn't imagine it to come in that form, but wow, that's great. I'll take it. And a lot of people are really struggling with that right now. They're afraid because they can't see where we're headed, and they really just need to bring themselves back to that center position, decide what they want at a vibrational level, and then keep resetting. That's the other thing that keeps coming up a lot with the guides right now.
Resetting,
people, yeah, they have this idea that it's, that things should already be done. Okay, I've done this, I've been working on this, and it keeps coming back around. Well, if it's coming back around, then it's the most important thing for you right now, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't be showing up. And we just have to keep resetting to acknowledge if we're having an experience that isn't the highest that we want, it's just showing us that there's more that we can access. And if we look at it that way.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Please continue.
So if we look at it that way, we're not engaging with the fear. We're not so afraid of, oh, why did I create this? What's wrong with me? Why do I must be focused somewhere negatively, but rather instead of going down that path and beating ourselves up, it's really just about making that new selection over and over. Okay, I wasn't in that frequency a minute ago because look what I've just created for myself, so it's just showing me that I need to make a new choice and moving that energy, imagining that frequency that you want.
Right. And I guess that would be how we would stay in our power when we're feeling unstable and you talk about the importance of letting go of expectation. And why do they stress that or emphasize the releasing of expectation?
Because the expectation is really an attachment. So we're attached to a form. We don't necessarily form those same kind of attachments with frequency because we're not used to working that way. But we do attach to how something is going to show up. It has to be this job. I want this particular job. And if you don't get it, you get disappointed. But really what you may not realize is that if you got that job, you wouldn't have liked it. It wasn't a vibrational match for you. But that expectation keeps you trapped. It keeps you in a limited little box of what the form looks like. When they talk about the process of manifestation, they talk about working with the frequency. You can visualize a form if you want, but then let it go. Be open to how it comes. They say it's like asking for a gift and then expecting it to come wrapped in a specific way. You're expecting a big polka dot wrapped box with a red bow on it, but you're watching 50 other boxes go by, and you're saying, no, that's not the polka dot one, not that one, not that one.
That's not the one I was expecting. Right.
Yes. And so what was, it's the 50th one that comes by, and the 49 before it held the gift that you asked for, but it wasn't wrapped the way that you thought it was supposed to be, so you didn't see it because you were looking for the form, and that's the expectation. And sometimes those boxes have little bonus gifts inside too, but because we're not open to the frequency, we're missing it.
Right. And that really ties into this whole concept, Wendy, of divine timing. That has been coming up a lot in terms of trusting divine timing with regard to just how things play out, when they play out, and releasing any attachment to specifics. And that's exactly what you're talking about. That's exactly what you're talking about. And so, okay, so that can be one of our blocks, right? Because we're also, you talk very practically about letting blocks go. Do you feel that people need to identify like what their blocks are to be able to release them?
You know, that's an interesting one because the guides used to talk about that a lot in terms of let's look at your pattern. And then they made a definitive shift as we got close to 2012. And they said, you know, early on, it was too big a stretch for you to believe that you could just move to a new frequency. You thought you had to figure it out. And that's why they had us going back to look to try to discover it, because we just couldn't do it otherwise. We needed an intermediate step. And around 2012, they said, you know, you're ready. Now you don't need that intermediate step anymore. You understand that the world vibrates and you are creating based off of your alignment with those frequencies. So now you can just choose a new frequency. We always could, but it was too big a leap mentally. And when you just realign your frequency, you don't have to know why you did it in the past. Because most of the time when we're going to look to figure out what was my belief system, we're going to look at it at the same level of consciousness we created the problem. And that makes it very difficult because you can't really see the solution because you're at the same level of consciousness. So every challenge and every solution to the challenge, it's created at the same time because we live in a dualistic universe. You can't have one without the other. You've got problem solution. They're two sides of the same coin. They're just in different vibrational ranges. So when you just move to the new frequency, you're in essence opening up your heart center to receive that information from the higher source, which allows you access to the solution. You're upping your frequency. So you don't really have to go to figure it out. You just have to move to the new frequency that you want.
Okay, so Wendy, when we're talking about selecting a new frequency, if someone's listening and are feeling like that sounds wonderful, but how do I do that? What is it, you know, in a practical way, what does it mean to select a new frequency? How is that done?
So whatever it is you want to create, and the guides usually say, you know, this is about playing around. It's about practice and repetition. So if you want to have more peace in your life, then, you know, the affirmation would be, I'm peaceful. But for most of us, that critical mind gets very active. As soon as we make that statement, if we start to do the affirmation and repeat it, critical mind's back there going, I'm not peaceful. There's so much stuff going on. There's this chaos and that chaos. What are you talking about? And it just chatters away. But if you say, I wonder what it would feel like to be peaceful, and just allow your imagination to go and hold that for as long as you can, you begin to align with that frequency. So it doesn't matter whether you say, I am this thing, or I wonder what it would feel like to be this thing. Both will put you in alignment with the frequency. So that's kind of a workaround for the inner critic, and that's typically what the guides will recommend. So when you wake up first thing in the morning, you can set an intention for the day. How do you want to feel for your day? What frequency do you want to explore? And that's really what life is about. It's an exploration of frequency. So you're deciding, instead of just being on autopilot and reacting to whatever shows up, you're choosing to drive your life in a particular way. So maybe for 3 or 4 days you choose peace to explore. So you wake up and you imagine what that feels like. You spend a couple minutes imagining that. And then you start your day. You move into that active state. So you start first with your state of being. You get that primed. You align your state of being. And then hopefully the actions that you take are based off of that frequency. So you start to take actions that are more in alignment with a peaceful day. There may be things that come up from the subconscious level that create something that is not peaceful. So you need to check in regularly. So maybe every 2 hours you're checking in to say, and you say, what's going on? Where am I vibrating? What's happening physically? What's happening emotionally? What's happening mentally? You know, at the physical level, is my body tense? Is it relaxed? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it numb? Is it tingly? What's happening physically? Where are my emotions? Well, right now I'm anxious, or right now I'm a little scared. I don't know how this thing is going to work out that I want to create. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know if I'm capable. And then those are some of the thoughts that may also go through. You know, the mind's busy, the inner critic's busy, or the mind might be quiet. It might be relaxed. So it's just a check-in, and then do I want to keep this frequency? Oh, no, this anxiety I don't really want right now. I'm going to let it go.
Reselect. Select again.
Yes. So then you just imagine what would peace feel like in the body again. And so it's not a complicated process, but it does require us to actually do it. It requires us to make the conscious choice, which sometimes is just easier said than done. It's such a simple thing, but we have resistance to it. So once you start to do that, you'll start to notice more peace starting to show up in your life. And it's important that you acknowledge it. So when you get to the end of your day, it's looking back, where did I experience peace today? Maybe that relationship that's not so great over here, I didn't have a lot of peace in that today, but I had a really lovely experience at the grocery store, or I had a really lovely, peaceful experience this afternoon where I just got to sit out in nature. So it's acknowledging and having gratitude for where you are experiencing it, and then that can expand. The universe says, oh, you know, she's appreciating this. She wants more of this. So we can do that. And by just focusing on 1 or 2 frequencies a day, it makes it much easier for us to start to identify frequency. And that's key to everything. So whether you want to just manifest in an easier way, whether you want to connect with your guides, connect with your higher self, you know, it's learning to read subtle frequency, and that happens through practice. If you are trying to create too many things all at once, you're missing a lot of the subtleties. So that's why they say work for a couple of days with 1 or 2 and then move on to a different one if you want.
Well, and I love that you have mentioned a couple times the practice and repetition component, because without that, you don't become familiar with all the subtleties and the frequencies, like you're saying. And so it's, you know, as you mentioned, the question was, what frequency do I want to explore today? And then selecting those and then practicing them to where they become very familiar, so that anything that doesn't feel that way, you recognize it right away, and then you can choose again. I love the simplicity of your teachings and the teachings that come through you, Wendy, because they're solutions to what everybody goes through on a daily basis, you know. But what I want to know is your perspective on, because of everything that you channel is so beautiful and wonderful and helpful, do you feel that anybody has the capacity to channel?
Everybody has the capacity to do it. We do it every day. We're just not aware of it, I think. You know, some of us it comes a little easier, just like being a musician might be slightly easier for someone, or being an accountant, somebody who works with math, might be easier for someone else. It doesn't mean that we can't do it if that's where our focus goes. So it really requires you to do 2 things. One is to ground, to connect with Mother Earth, because if you aren't connected with the Earth, then it's very, very difficult to access your full power, and it's very difficult to discern energy. So, you know, with today's electronics, they're not in sync with Mother Earth's energy, and when we're not grounded, we entrain with that instead, and it's very disruptive to the human body. And when we're grounded, we don't entrain in the same way. We've got a good, strong connection with Mother Earth, and so those frequencies don't affect us. And that's one thing that you've got to do. And, you know, we're dualistic, so we're pulling energy from the cosmos, but we're also pulling energy from Mother Earth. So what I find for people that are drawn to the Pleiadians is that they are very galactic oriented. They're very celestial oriented, and a lot of them just don't want to be here on the planet. And that's certainly something that I can relate to. I certainly went through my own period, and there are days where I'm like, how did I get here? What was I thinking? Where I think those who are sensitive, it's very difficult. How do I cope? How do I manage? And one of the things you've got to do is ground. We coped by closing off that root chakra so that we didn't feel as intensely, and it worked for a while. But it's not working anymore. So if we want to access our full potential, if we want to stand in our power, then we have to ground. We have to be connected to the earth, and that means opening up. You know, a lot of times when we think about standing in our power, we think about, you know, being strong and tense and puffed up, but really it's about being open and vulnerable and relaxed so that energy can flow freely through us, and that means relaxing into the moment without needing to control it or manipulate it. So grounding really helps with all of that, because when we're grounded, we feel safe. When we feel safe, we don't feel the need to control, and we can trust in the universe, because safety, control, and trust all go hand in hand there.
Absolutely. And I would imagine that you've practiced that over the years, and it supports you in receiving or being in that flow to receive all of the information that flows through you, and also these galactic light codes that you work with. Can you describe, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people listening are probably familiar with your work and these galactic light codes, but some may not be. So talk about these codes that you work with and how they come through, what they are, what they do, all of that.
But I do, let me go back here for just a second, because I know there are probably people going, wait a minute, what was the second thing with channeling? The second thing to do is to be heart-centered. Just to think of something that makes you smile, because that allows the energy to come in. That allows you to receive multidimensional information. The mind was set up to kind of parse that out so you could have the illusion of separation. So you have to operate through the heart. Thinking of something that makes you smile is the fastest way to get you there. And once you do that, if if you're open and you're grounded, you're feeling safe, then it's not a problem. You're able to turn that volume up and hear what's being said, because your guides are working with you every day. You're getting information. You just think it's your imagination.
Right. Well, and when I have people smile, Wendy, at the beginning of the show, sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't, but it really does just soften. It's like that instant softener, you know, because we can be, you know, it's kind of just lessening that rigidity or the tension so that they're in the flow to receive. So we're all in the flow to receive, and it feels so much better, because a lot of times we walk around and not even realizing it. We're tense, you know, and so all of these things matter so much in terms of just relaxing into the flow. So to reiterate for the channeling, the first, what was the first thing that you said so that someone wants to try it for themselves?
So they need to ground. Because if you're not grounded, you don't feel safe. And you're not sure who you're connecting with. That's the other thing.
That's important.
There's a lot of fear. Well,
right.
There's a lot of fear around that, and it's about taking what resonates with you, because we really don't know who we're connecting with. It's the same, you know, I only know you as well as I experience you, is what you tell me your life is about and who you are and what your beliefs are. But whether I trust you or not is all dependent on how I feel about you and whether the information resonates. And it's the same thing interdimensionally. And if you're grounded, then that's easy to do. If you're not so much. You're not trusting in yourself. Right. So that's the first thing. And then heart centering.
Yes. And smiling. And so do you have to do a lot of smiling for the codes to come in? So let's get into the codes.
So when I first started channeling, within the first year, they started giving me symbols. And at the time, when I asked what it was, they said, this is an Arcturian seed language. This is the language of light. And I was like, okay, that's great. And I did that for a while. And then it just kind of went to the side. And then they came back to me and they said, it's time to start working with the language of light again. And so I started bringing through the language itself, the way it's spoken, and then also the symbols. And the symbols represent the language of light. So the language of light is a universal language that all life understands. It's comprised of light, sound, sacred geometry, and cosmic information. So it's got multiple levels and multiple layers to it. And the symbols represent the language. And there are different dialects of the language, so that's why you might hear one person speak the language of light and it sounds very different than another, but we still understand it. And it would be like someone speaking English and they're from Ireland, or someone from New York or Australia. They all sound different, and there are certainly different words and different phrases, but we get it. We understand it. And it's the same thing with the language of light. So the symbols are more like concepts. They're not like an alphabet. It's more like kanji. And so they've given me these symbols for people to work with, and it bypasses the traditional language centers of the brain, and it speaks directly to you, the divine being of light, having this experience. And so the mind isn't involved, so all the filters of lack and limitation don't get triggered. And it helps you to shift your frequency. So think about someone asking you to sing the note of A. Most of us couldn't do it unless we've got perfect pitch. It's very difficult. And if somebody plays the piano and says, play the A or sing the A, it's much easier. We're like, oh, okay, that note. Okay, I've got that. No problem. So that's really what the language of light does. It helps you because it's reminding you of these frequencies, and you say, oh, I've been down here. I've forgotten. That's what that feels like again. And so it makes it much, much easier for us to shift our resonance.
So we're going to be doing some of that today. You're going to be doing some channeling and attunement. Is it the Pleiadian collective that's going to be coming through, or are you working with other collectives or groups that may come through?
Well, they always take point. The Pleiadians always take point, and then other beings will blend their energy depending on what's needed. And I never really know because to me, when that happens, it feels like braided energy, and sometimes there's a lot of different beings coming through at once. And it feels like a little bit of Arcturian energy, a little bit of Cassiopean with a little Andromedan thrown in. It feels like a mixture. So, and a lot of times they'll kind of cycle through. So you'll notice that the energy will change as we go, and there may be other beings that were kind of stepping forward and lending their energy, because also what happens is with all of these different systems, there are archetypal patterns that each of these systems has mastered. And they're the same patterns that we're working through now. So as they're showing up, they're infusing in their frequency the knowledge of how to move beyond the limiting belief, how to move beyond the fear that we've created for ourselves. So
right. And that's what I was just going to ask you. When we're talking about embracing our divine light, which is part of our main topic for today, and a lot of people do have, whether it's conscious or unconscious, fears about embracing their light. So, and people have written in about that too. How does one start to release those fears or release those limitations?
There are a couple of big ones that come up over and over again, and persecution is a huge one for most of us. We've had other lifetimes where our spiritual path did not end well. We were persecuted for it, or we felt guilty about something that we created. We felt responsible and thought we should have known better. We should have been able to see something. We should have been able to change an event. Atlantis is certainly in the collective consciousness. So that fear comes up again and again, and really grounding is a huge piece to releasing that persecution, because that will help you to feel safer. Connect with nature. If you're somebody who finds it very difficult to connect with people, start connecting more and more with nature and opening up that way. Because when you start to do that, when you start to open up, when you are just your authentic self and not having to hide who you are, you're standing in your power,
Yeah.
And power is, we create through matching resonances. So if you're holding fear, you're going to get someone to be the bad guy for you, to persecute you. If that's the frequency that you're holding, that's what you're going to get as your reality. But as you start to relax and you start to feel safe, then safe experiences are what you start to get back and see as your reality. You're safe in every moment. The illusion is that you're not safe. So that's a big one, and that actually allows you to experience more power. And then, the other piece is that we're afraid that we're going to leave people behind, that our spouse or our friends or family, we're going to grow beyond them. And the interesting thing that happens is that really the more that we open our hearts, the more we connect with our own divine self, we actually connect more with the divine in others. So if, your family members aren't the most awakened people, which many people will do that, they will have chosen to come into a family where everybody's asleep and they're the only one who's awake so that they can be the way shower for that family unit. And that happens a lot. So as you are acknowledging your divine light, the moments that you spend with your family, you have those moments of divine connection. You have that great conversation. You have a different experience. And then they might go and have a different conversation with everybody else. But those 2 minutes that you were with them, they were fully present. They had amazing words that came out of their mouths, wisdom that came out, just very practical wisdom. So how you show up is going to determine the relationship. And that's really important because a lot of times, you all think, we all think that both of us have to change in order for the relationship to change, but really only one of us has to change. And so when you show up in a better space, then you can elicit that energy from someone else, or if they're not willing to match you, they're going to go away.
Exactly. And I love what you mentioned about, grounding and, just reiterating the importance of that to feel safe, because what you said about any belief that we have about living in an unsafe world is validated, and so really becoming more familiar with these frequencies of peace, then we begin to experience a peaceful world around us. And so, Wendy, if someone's wondering, okay, they're mentioning grounding a lot, how do I do it? Are there particular practices of yours that you incorporate into your daily life that assist with this?
So there are a couple of quick ones. Whatever you want to do to visualize connecting with the earth, whatever that means to you, you can do. Literally getting outside and getting your body connected with the earth, whether you're, depending on where you're at in the time of year, if you can get out there barefoot, great. If you can sit on the ground, great. If not, then you can visualize it. So you can imagine beautiful light coming in through the crown of your head and moving through each and every cell of your body, filling up every space, every crevice with this beautiful, pristine light. And then that light moves down through your feet, down through the core of the earth where it connects with the beautiful starlights, the core of Mother Earth. Her essence is a light, and so you're connecting with her and then allowing that energy to kind of blend together, and then that energy comes back up through the body and moves through every cell, every molecule of the body, and then out to the center of the galaxy where the process continues again. It comes back down. So that's a quick little visual you can do. And then there's one that gave me at the very beginning, and that's really just imagining all the elements and all the colors of the chakras while you're breathing. So you just want to see yourself in your mind's eye, and then as you breathe, you're going to start with the element of air and start with the color red. So you're going to see a red tornado spinning around you, clearing out anything that doesn't belong to you or is no longer of service to you. And you're going to do that for either one breath in and out or three. It depends on how much time you have. So you'll do that for one breath, and then you'll move on to the next one, which is rain, so you're going to, water, so you're going to see
a shower of...
Thank you. red shower, washing anything away. So the first one was actually earth and air because you had the tornado. So you're the third one, on the next breath in, you're going to see a red flame purifying everything that doesn't belong to you or is no longer of service to you. And then you're going to switch colors. So you'll go up to orange. So you'll do orange tornado, orange rain, orange flame, and then yellow. Green or pink for the heart, whatever you feel drawn to for the day. Then blue, indigo, purple. And then you want to finish it all off with a silvery white light. So silvery white tornado, silvery white rain, silvery white flame. And that's just going to clear you out and help to ground you a bit. So
I love that.
That one takes a little longer. And like I said, you can do 3 breaths of each, but it's a lot for most of us because we're not used to breathing consciously that much, and it can move a lot.
Right. I just appreciate you sharing those. I think those are going to be really helpful for people. And I want to go to taking some callers in a minute. And there's a lot of people who've written in, and I want to pick out a question or two from the webcast. And this one feels it's similar to a few of them that are here. So Eve from London wrote in and said, how can we hold and process more multidimensional information that we've received either in the dream state or deep meditation? So how do we hold it and process it, is what Eve is asking. What would you say to that?
So the idea of holding it is wanting to control it. That's the first thing I heard them say. They said it's ever present with you. It's always there. That information is always there. So it's just a matter of you being open to access it. So think about there being a tree outside your window. And in your dream state, it's like you going to the blind and opening up the window, and then you close it again. You close the shades. So the shades is really your consciousness. So when you go back into that heart-centered space, you have access to all that information again. So how much time are you spending in the heart-centered space? And when you need information, it's there for you when you're in that space. You don't have to control it to say, all right, I'm going to remember this, because sometimes we do that through repetition when when we're learning in school. Where instead of just being present to access the information, because there is way more information in the universe than we could possibly store in our brains. So when we're in the heart-centered space, we have access to it all. It's an interesting thing when I channel for people. And a lot of times it's just over the phone, so I don't see people. I don't have that facial recognition. For me, I'm a very visual person, and I don't always remember who people are until I get back into that heart-centered space and I open up to all of that information, and then I can recall, oh, here is this person. But it's not until I get back into that space, because if I'm in my mind, I can't access it. It's just not there. I can't remember who they are.
Right. So, no, that's a wonderful response. And Eve, I hope that you're still around to hear that. Sometimes with the people who've written in, I don't know if they're still there. They may have joined us a long time ago, but thank you for that. And then I'm going to take one more question from the webcast, and we'll take some live callers. Ada from the Netherlands has written in, can you say something about treating pancreatic cancer? But maybe we can broaden that to pancreatic cancer for her, but just cancer in general or disease. What can you say about treating something like that? Broad question.
Yeah, well, with any disease, the guides say first and foremost it's an energetic issue, always. So, they've been working with me a lot on my own body and really shifting my perspective of it. We know now with science that our thoughts and emotions affect our biology, so that we create an environment that either supports health or we create an environment through our thoughts that creates imbalance. And so it's just, again, that repetition of some of those lower thoughts that create the imbalance, and then we attract opportunities or environmental situations that also are a match for that compound that. And there are always lessons in that. So the first thing, they've been working with me is when we get some of these illnesses, when we're not well, it's very easy when we are working with metaphysics, when we're first learning, that we beat ourselves up. Why did I create this? And then, there's a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of heaviness that comes around it. And they're just saying, really let go of that. Don't blame yourself thinking, oh, how did I create this? Or why did I get this? How does it serve me? What is it showing me? Everything shows us in every moment how we are either suppressing or expressing divine energy. So if we've suppressed it in some way, it's an opportunity for us to have more of it, to embrace more of it. And that's kind of a great thing when you think about it, instead of thinking, negatively about it. But there's just more. I'm being offered more riches. The universe is opening to me. If I want it, it's showing me it's there. So now I just have to step into it. I have to embrace it. And if you can think about it that way, what that does is, again, it changes your biology. Instead of, how do I have to fight this? You're creating a better, more hospitable environment so that your immune system can do what it knows it needs to do to create health and balance in the body. When you get curious about life, when you get curious about what a frequency is like, that's when you're able to easily manifest. When you are choosing something, which 95% of the time we're doing this, we're choosing something to avoid a negative consequence. I want this thing over here. Money's an easy one to see. I want more money because I don't want to be poor, because that doesn't feel comfortable. That's suffering over here. But really, from the universe's standpoint, what we're saying is, I want to be separate from this problem over here. And that separation keeps you in a loop with it. It keeps you attracting it. It keeps you attached to it. So when you say, I'm curious, there's no attachment. This is where letting go of the expectation is so important. There's no attachment. There's no expectation. There's just that curiosity. And so whatever is the most appropriate, highest version can come in. And it is the same with the health. So it's imagining what might be possible and then not being attached to it, being curious about it. What would that feel like? What would it feel like to have perfect health in my body? What would it feel like to feel vital? And that's when we start asking those questions, we might notice some of the old patterns that, if I have too much light, I'm not safe. Or if I have too much light, my family isn't going to understand me. I'm not going to be able to relate to them. Or my spouse is going to divorce me. Or I can't have my relationship. We have those fears, and so we'll cap how much light we can have in the body. And we start to become more aware of that as we're focused and curious and we're asking questions. And so you can just acknowledge it when it comes up. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, feel it. Don't stuff it back down. And then you can move from it.
Yeah, I love that. The question, are you suppressing or expressing divine energy? And that's so important. And what I also heard you say was the importance of creating this inner environment that supports vitality and that supports health. And those really are the practices for treating any kind of dis-ease or of any kind, is really cultivating that inner world, that inner environment in all these different ways. And the suppression is huge, Wendy. And I think to keep that question in mind as often as possible, am I suppressing divine energy or expressing it? And it's huge. And and a lot of people, that was a great question to ask you, because a lot of people wrote in about health and disease. And so the next, I'm going to take one more here, and then we'll take live callers, because this kind of coincides with what we're talking about. Robert wrote in asking, he said, great call. Does Wendy have any light codes for, well, he's specifically saying knee pain. But I'm feeling it's an important question because everybody probably has pain of some kind. So do you have any light codes, as he's asking, for him, knee pain and pain in general?
Well, again, what's causing the pain? I think that, what's the belief system that's there? And everything pretty much boils down to just a handful of issues. It's either safety, security, trust, control, manipulation, abandonment, and I think I'm not sure if I got them all in there. And then at the top, everything, the core wound for everybody is separation from source energy. Approval, abandonment. That was the other one. So what's causing that? The first thing is fear of moving forward. Is the guides say all the time, the body is really literal. So it's not complicated.
Yes.
A lot of what we have, our tools, they're not complicated because we make things so complicated in our head that we need really simple stuff, really simple cues, simple directions. So, if you've got joint pain where you're not being flexible, specifically I'm hearing moving forward and it's attached to other people where you're not wanting, there's a fear of moving forward and that it's going to affect a relationship. So,
how brilliant. I mean, it is simplistic, but it's like, oh yeah, okay. Wow. Because I'm sure a lot of people listening have knee pain. So when it comes to a code for that, what do you want to replace it with? So if it's all right, well, maybe I'm not being flexible. Maybe I'm afraid of moving forward because I don't feel safe. Then to work with safety, and we have a safety code. And I think that we've got a version of that up on the website. I can't remember all of them because there are so many codes, and I can't remember what exactly is where. But I know we have one on the site that's for hope that people can access if they want to know what do these galactic light codes look like. We've got a free one on the offer page, I think at the very bottom, that's for hope. And it's funny, some people were like, well, hope, that's a very power, you're not putting yourself in a very powerful position. You're thinking that something is going to take care of something for you. And I thought, well, that's a very interesting perspective. We all need hope. We need to feel that change is possible, things are possible, because we are ever evolving and ever changing. And especially right now, we need that sense of in some ways, it's inspiring. Hope is inspiring. But, you just follow your instincts about what you need to work with as far as the codes themselves go. And there are some on the website. I know there's patience. There's I'm enough. There are some for control on there. Some that came with Orion. Well, and there's also there's a lot of people writing in about different things that you offer, and I want to briefly mention, I mean, you've created a new offer here that does include an online program with 12 daily channelings and language of light activations, and they're pretty powerful in terms of just the expansive areas that you're covering, like cellular regeneration, balanced energy, optimal performance, releasing the past, removing obstacles, reconnecting with the galactic matrices, recoding energetic sequences, dreaming a new dream, accessing your full potential. And interestingly enough, we're getting questions in the webcast about a lot of these things. So, Wendy, how do these language of light activations, like in this, how do they support them? They just listen to these activations, and how does it work to support these different areas or different challenges?
So with the online program, it's the recalibration and activation of your divine matrix, and really all of us have a divine matrix or a blueprint that we came in with, and we kind of had a pre-shift and a post-shift blueprint, because up to about 2012, there were things that we wanted to experience, and then when we upped our frequency, it really altered the game. And it's a bit unique because of the lifetime that we're in, where this is a lifetime where we're going through this ascension process. And so really what this course is to help you to do is to kind of align more with that aspect of yourself, that divine blueprint, so you can express more of your divine light so that you can live the highest version of your life. And what the guides gave me were 12 days where you're immersed in this energy, and each day there's a channeling from the guides. It's about 7 to 10 minutes long. And then there's a galactic light code and a language of light activation to help you align with the energies that they discuss. So the first day is cellular regeneration. How do you open up to regenerate the body? And so you're working with that 3 times a day. And typically when we work with galactic light codes, the guides suggest working with it for 3 days in a row, 3 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
But because we're doing 12 days, we're just doing one day of each 3 times a day. And people had really amazing experiences the first time I went through this course with people. So it was really amazing. And you know, it really shifts you, and these do build one on top of another.
Yeah.
So
yes, I would imagine so. I mean, because where it goes back to that practice and repetition, and if you're doing this every day for, what is it, a 12-day? Is it
12 days, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Well, and I wanted to highlight this because this is a new offering from you, and you're also offering as a bonus a 2-month trial of the Galactic Light Code monthly for free. They'll get 2 months of that for free. What is that, Wendy?
So Galactic Light Code monthly, we take the group, and the guides decide what energy the group needs for the following month. And so they'll create a specific Galactic Light Code for the group. And with that, you're going to get a Galactic Light Code, and there are 5 versions of that, so you can download it and put it on your mobile devices and carry it with you, so you're seeing it and getting exposed to the frequency. And then there's a channeling from the guides, and then they also offer an affirmation to work with as well. And you know, that again, you're working with 3 times a day for at least 3 days in a row, and hopefully you're doing it more times through the month for that. So that changes every month. And you know, like I said, it's what I love about it is that it's based on the needs of the group. So what does the group really need this month to help support it? So
well, that's awesome that you'll include that. Please go ahead. Last month
was really about self-recognition. You know, acknowledging ourselves, standing in our power, and you know, too often we dismiss who we are, what we're capable of, and you know, the inner critic is really busy in the background, but it's really important to acknowledge the things that are going right instead of all the things that are going wrong.
Yeah. Yes. And someone asked, where do I find this? straighttalkforthesoul.com/marketplace, and you'll just click on Wendy's picture, and it'll take you to this special offer, and we'll send you the link to this in your replay email later. But Wendy, thank you for creating that and for including that bonus. And what a great thing for people to move into the holidays with 12 days of this, to be really empowered for the holiday season. So with all of these channelings and activations. So thank you for that. And gosh, we have so many beautiful questions that people have written in. I know I feel like the people who are on the phone are like, come to us. And I will. But gosh, there's 3 great questions in the webcast too. But I want to go and take some live callers. Wendy, is that okay with you?
That's great.
Okay. All right. First caller, Wendy, this can be anything, I'm guessing, or do you want to stay specific about certain topics, or how do you feel? Okay.
We can go anywhere.
All right, guys, here we go. The first caller is area code 541. 541.
Hello?
Hi. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. I was driving, so I just pull over.
Safety first, yes.
Yes.
What is your name?
So, Rochelle.
Hi, Rochelle.
Hi. So I just feel so blocked. I've done a lot of different things. I'm interested in a lot of different things, and I'm just like dipping my toe in a lot of different places. But I feel really blocked, and I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something that I just can't get to.
So I think I'm going to step out of the way and let the P's come in for this one. I always like to preface this for those who haven't heard the P's, because they always ask, why in the world do they sound different? Is she British? Is she Australian? What's going on? The P's actually work with tone and sound. And it's not any one particular dialect. It's just tones and sounds that resonate with you at a cellular level, and it's elongated vowels that they can modulate a bit more. So it's not any one dialect. So in addition to getting the information, it's always like you're getting a healing as well. So I'm going to bring them in, and thank you for your question, Michelle. And we'll see, because I know a lot of people feel that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, hello, dear. This is the Ninth Dimensional Pleiadian Collective, and it is a pleasure and an honor to have the opportunity to connect with you all today. So we appreciate this question because many of you are feeling this way. You're feeling particularly stuck, and the energies over the last really 16 to 18 months have led to some of this sensation of feeling like you can't quite move forward. And as you all get to spring, probably about April, you're going to feel like movement can happen in a much easier way. So sometimes when you're feeling things, it's not just you, it's not just that you're blocked, it's the timing, the divine timing of things. So we want to remind you of that as well. Really up until the end of November, there was a lot of energy. We weren't quite sure how you were going to play it out. Let's just say you chose the less severe option. As we're looking at your realities, you were experiencing a lot of compassion over the last several weeks, in part due to some of the environmental catastrophes that were going on around the world. But there's still more work to do. So don't misunderstand us in that you've gotten out of the challenges. It's just the more compassion, the more gratitude and appreciation you have for life, for others, the less drama you need in your reality. Some of you are going to see a lot of negativity in the news, and it's important that you don't buy into all of it. All right? If you were being fed news that was continually positive, you would have a very different world, because that's what you would come to expect from the world, positive exchanges. But you're being conditioned to see the negative. So we would say the same thing of your own mindset in what you want to create. Focus on the positive instead of where am I blocked? What would I want to create? What would be fun for me? With this, it's important, many of you get stuck on the idea that there's something special that you're supposed to do. Your life purpose is about something that you are to do. It's not. It's about a state of being that you are carrying into everything that you do. And what you do will change. So, as Wendy mentioned at the beginning, your state of being informs everything that you do. And we want to take you back to that perspective. So as you start to work on your state of being, how do I want to feel this morning? How do I want to show up? More opportunities of what it is you're supposed to do will start to appear. So you might have right now this sensation that there's something that eludes you that you're supposed to do. Well, from your level of consciousness where you're trying to figure out and control it, you're never going to be able to access it because it's a higher vibration. It is a service. It is a calling, and that is of a higher vibrational nature. So how do you get your vibration up to match it, to receive it, to be at the delivery address, as it were, for this experience? You go to your heart center. So, back to the basics, back to the practice that we were talking about. To elevate yourself, you think of something that makes you smile. Smile, all right? That expands you. And then ideas, hits, inspirations about what you can do start to surface. And then from that space, you take action. It's not about you sitting down trying to figure out how you're going to make it work. It's you getting into the heart-centered space, feeling really aligned with something, and then engaging with it. All right? It's very different. And, it seems too intangible. It seems like air that you can't grab onto. For you as humans, you've been conditioned to think that it's do. And what you do is what has value. For us, we would say it's just the opposite. Your state of being is so important because it impacts everything. So really, if you want to excel, start focusing more on your state of being. How do you want to show up in the world? So if you think maybe you want to write, or maybe you feel like you should be speaking, or maybe you feel like you want to be counseling. How do you want to show up in that job? Start embodying that frequency. Start preparing energetically, internally for it. That will create the space for it to start to show up. So if you feel like, oh, I want to be creative, I want to be expressive, well, then spend your day being creative and expressive. How can I be more expressive today? How can I be creative? And by the way, all of you should be taking time out of your day, 10 to 15 minutes, to do something creative, just for the sake of being creative, not for an outcome. That gets you into the space to allow more source energy to flow. That's another way for you to kind of cheat around the mind when the mind's very active. Do that creative thing. That can alter your, well, it alters your brain waves, and it also allows for more information, more divine information to come in. All right? So we hope that helps you.
That did help me. I was soaking all that in, and it makes so much sense. I think I'm just trying too hard, and I just need to settle into a feeling, because I'm like, I want to use the expression of running around like a chicken with its head cut off, kind of. Like, I just, like, that's what I'm doing.
So stop, get some inner direction first. And, you're not alone. That's the other thing we want to acknowledge. This is what you all do. So you're in good company. But, also this is about not being attached to it, because, let's talk about divine timing here. Sometimes there are skills that you need to master before you get that big thing that you're asking for. So let us give you an example. If you don't have great boundaries and you go into a situation where you've got hundreds or thousands of people coming at you or giving attention to you, you're not going to do well with that. It's going to be overwhelming, and in some cases it can be devastating to you. So you might have to learn healthy boundaries first, and then that thing can show up. So whatever is showing up in your life today, it is the most important thing. Otherwise, it wouldn't be showing up. The universe is going to bring things in the divine right timing, in the divine right order, in the divine right way. So trust in that flow. So again, we would take you back to the moment. What's showing up for me? Oh, is this showing me that I'm expressing or suppressing divine energy? Do I want to keep engaging with it? Do I want to make a new vibrational selection? Have an adventure every day. Step into the day to say, let's explore. Instead of, today's going to be like yesterday, I'm going to go to work, people are going to be nasty, I'm going to be doing things I don't want to do, I can't count the hours fast enough passing, and, you've got this expectation for most of you.
Exactly, yeah.
You hold other people to a certain pattern. You expect people to behave in a certain way, so they do. They honor you for that desire. So you show up differently. Say, what can I create that's different today? How can I show up different today? And then your reality will be different. You'll have new opportunities at work. People will behave differently in your presence because you're showing up in a different way. So that's how you stand in your power. All right? So you don't have to leave where you are. Oftentimes, you all think, well, I've got to, abandon where I am and move to something else. But change who you are now to make yourself vibrationally ready for what it is that you're asking. All right? If you really start to make a list of the vibrational qualities that you think that new job, that new life purpose has, and start mastering those skills. Master those frequencies. Oh, well, I need to be articulate. All right, so how can I communicate better with other people? Well, first I have to communicate with myself. How am I feeling? Oh, I didn't realize I was feeling that because I never stopped to think about it. I never stopped to ask myself, how do I feel about it? So when you know that, then you can start showing up in a different way. All right?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're very
Michelle,
welcome.
you sound so much lighter.
I am, because I thought I was doing something really wrong, and kind of I was, but it's not something that I can't fix.
Exactly.
Easily.
Exactly. And your question and how you were feeling, I know, is how many people were feeling. So there was so much that came through. I hope maybe you re-listened to what the P's just shared with you on the
Definitely.
replay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you guys
Well,
so much.
you're welcome, Rochelle. Best wishes to you and happy holidays, okay?
You too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Rochelle. Okay, Wendy and the P's, I'm going to go ahead and take another question. I'm going to area code 775.
Hi,
Hi, welcome. What is your name?
Kathleen.
Hi, Kathleen. How are you?
Well, just like everybody else, pretty confused about where my life's going right now.
Okay. Do you want to be more specific and ask the P's a question on that?
Well, my business that I've been trying to work at, well, not trying, it's my livelihood, and it just doesn't get me the clients. And I get people that tell me they don't understand why I don't have more clients. That's the best they've ever received and everything, yet here I am just majorly struggling. I can't even pay my bills this next coming month, and I'm just really scared. And I'm trying not to get into fear, but I'm just really getting dismayed at what am I supposed to really be doing, because apparently I don't know that this is it.
All right, dear. So first thing we would have you do is take a nice deep breath. We'd actually invite everyone to take a nice deep breath. So for you specifically, well, first let's start generally. Everything we just talked about, we would say you can apply, because all those things will help you to move your energy. At the core of what's going on for you, you're hitting a ceiling with responsibility, all right, a sense of responsibility, and also making sure you're nourished, you're taking care of yourself. So we see this quite often, this pattern, with those who have awakened. Many of you are healers, you're givers in life, but you don't always receive. You're not so great at receiving for several reasons. One, the belief is that receiving comes with strings attached, and it often means that there's more work involved for you. Oh, great, thank you for giving me that. Now I've got to do X, Y, and Z that I hadn't planned on doing. So it comes with conditions. It comes with a burden, and sometimes it comes with the need to purify the energy. So it comes at a cost. So some of you will not receive. You won't take time to nourish yourself. One of the things that we would say for you specifically is take a little time to play. We know in the midst of all of the struggle, things that don't seem to be going well, it can feel hard to take time to play, but that will open up your energy to allow you to receive. When it comes to money, money is not always about your beliefs about money when it stops flowing. Money is a good indicator of your overall energy. So if energy is no longer flowing in your life, money will start to dry up to get your attention. You notice when money's not flowing. You stop and you pay attention. You might not pay attention when that relationship isn't moving so quickly or isn't going so well. But you notice when money stops coming into the bank account. So look to see where are you not receiving right now, and really take some time to nurture yourself. That doesn't mean that it has to cost a lot. It just means that it needs to be you taking time for you, doing things that your inner child would like to do. Ask your little girl. We can ask now, but we think you need to go a little deeper with it, because pay attention to your inner child and what your inner child asks you for. If you agree to do something for your inner child, then you need to do it, because to not honor a promise that you made to your inner child will create lots of inner problems. So if you can't do it, don't do it. Don't promise it. But we would say ask your inner child what she needs to feel lighthearted, what she needs to feel happy, to feel supported, to feel loved, to feel acknowledged. All right, that would be what we would recommend for you, because that will get your energy flowing. When you start to nourish yourself, then the clientele can expand, because when you're feeling a bit energetically depleted, and acknowledge yourself, acknowledge your own worth, your own value, then that will turn the light on. Because you are doing the right thing. It's just making some of these energetic tweaks, old stuff coming up to be integrated. All right, make sense?
Mm-hmm. How did that feel?
Just still confused because I thought that I was doing that, and I realized that sitting here and is part of what I like is that I have a life that doesn't stress me out other than not having work to do. But overall, I'm trying to look at all my positive things in my life.
Mm-hmm. And can you feel them?
Yeah, I love it.
Acknowledge them?
I actually, if money wasn't an issue, I love my life. I absolutely love my life. It's just I need money to eat and pay the heat and things like that. That's...
Well, as we said, we would have you go back and ask your inner child what she needs, and it's some acknowledgement. Your inner child is asking for acknowledgement right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So just imagine, what would it feel like to feel abundant? What would it feel like to have money flow? We just want you to imagine it for a moment. All of you can do this.
Yeah, and I dance around. Sometimes I can get so giddy feeling, and I dance around and be so happy because it lights me up.
Yeah, I heard it when you said that.
I have. That's why
I
don't understand why I'm getting so stuck. And then I'm looking at maybe I need to take my son to small claims court because I loaned him well over $10,000 and he's just not paying me back. And so now I'm looking at maybe that's what I got to do to take care of myself, is stand up for myself in this regard. I don't know.
Well, this goes back to your receiving, all right, to receive what is rightfully yours, to allow that energy to come back in. All right, so we would say just take a look at that. Where, how do you feel about receiving when you're looking at it and you're truly honest, not just the surface, but when you start to look a little deeper, what happens when you get energy or when people give to you? As we said, sometimes on the surface it looks great, but then you dig a little deeper and you see, this is really a pain in my tush to get this thing. Deservedness of receiving that back, acknowledgement of self. We would send you to look back there, all right? Because when you dig a little deeper with that, we think you're going to start to find some of it, find some of
acknowledgement
the
of
it.
self. You said to ask.
Yes.
So, acknowledgement of self.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You're inherently deserving of receiving, and it's important to receive in equal measure. So give and receive in equal measure. You can't just give. You've got to receive.
Right.
All right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we're sending much love to you, dear.
Yeah,
the activation will help you.
I was just feeling that too, yes. So, and maybe listen again. I know it's a lot at once, and I wish you the very, very best. And hopefully
I
step
listen
into
to your
flow.
shows all the time, Carrie. Even when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll turn your shows on and listen to them so I can just have anything but the crap going on in my head.
Well, we are here for you. This is your family. So.
I know, and that's what I feel, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, I'm sending you lots of love, sweetheart, and take care of yourself. Okay. Wendy and the P's, should we go ahead and move into an activation of some kind? And what are you all feeling?
We think actually there might be one short question before we move into the activation.
Okay,
I was piece of information for everyone.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to go to area code 978. 978.
Hello.
Hi, and welcome. What is your name?
Lisa.
Hi, Lisa. How's everything going with you, Lisa?
Well,
loaded question. Huh?
Oh gosh, yeah, I can relate to everyone, especially even Wendy, what she was talking of in the beginning about not even wanting to be on this planet. And unfortunately, my 17-year-old is very empathic, as I am, and is going through the same thing. So I guess my question is, what is there some kind of ritual that you do daily to what do you do when you get to that point? Because I can't even get my kid to school half the time, and I don't know what to do anymore.
All right. So again, this is not uncommon, and we encounter this a lot, and we don't think you all realize just how many of you have this program going on. There are so many of you who are hiding your authentic self. You're not talking about your beliefs. You're not talking about how you're feeling. You're separate from each other. That there, at this point, so many of you who are sharing similar beliefs. Now, the language may be slightly different, but the underlying current of energy is pretty much the same. And so the more you talk, the more you connect with your community, the better you're going to start to feel. And the internet has made that easier as well. That there are those of you who are sharing your ideas online, and you feel like you've got a community in a beautiful place such as here, all right, that there are people who are like-minded and sharing their beliefs. So your son, he can also find, if he'd like to listen in here to Straight Talk, that's wonderful, but there may be his own blend of energy, so to speak, that he is going to feel aligned with. Creativity is important, especially for children of any age, even children of 50, 60, 70 years old. It's important that you embrace that inner child and start to play more, because that will help you to feel connected in a different way. It allows source energy to come through. As we said, start working with nature. As you start showing up as more of your authentic self, you're going to find that your relationship with others is going to be easier. But that you've got to take that first step. It's scary for most of you because you feel like you're going to be judged in some way. All of you feel like you're constantly going to be judged. You're not wealthy enough. You're not tall enough. You're not handsome enough. You're not smart enough. You're not fill in the blank. You've got some reason that you feel like you're going to be persecuted. All right? Mm-hmm. So all of you are constantly feeling that. So your spiritual beliefs are slightly different. Someone else is thinking that their skin color is different, or that their weight is different, or that their educational level isn't good enough, and they're going to be persecuted for that. They're going to be shamed for that. So just know that everybody's starting out at the same level with that, and that makes it easier for you just to show up that way, because then you don't take it personally when they don't agree with you. The attunement that we'd like to do for everybody is also going to help with this. We're going to help you to open up to more of your divine nature, embracing your divine self. As you're doing this, life just gets easier. You feel lighter. You want to be here. You want to explore frequency. With your son, we would also say, you can share some of the information about exploring frequency. How does he want to feel? How does he want to show up? He's exceptionally powerful as a manifester. So, know that grief, shame, blame, those are all frequencies that you can muck in. If you want to feel joyous, you have to imagine feeling it, and then life will start to reflect it. All right?
Yes, there is a lot of grief.
So it's a choice, and what will happen is you all will stay there, and then finally you'll get bored, and then you'll move out of it. All right, I've been on the sofa, I've watched too much TV, I've eaten too many bonbons, and I'm ready to shift. I know my exercises I need to do. I need to imagine joy. And then you just
That's what I wonder, is this something that will pass? Because sometimes in life, I'm older, so I do look back and say, okay, well, when you're in it, you think it's never going to end, and then all of a sudden you realize, okay, I did get through that.
Yes. So, in childhood, it's especially that age, there's so many other things going on, wanting to establish independence, but not really being able to do that yet, and your body's changing and trying to learn social structure. There's so much more that's going on. But, have him play around with energy. Empower him to use energy.
Yeah, just quickly, it's a female, but that's okay. Her father committed suicide, and I guess for me as a mother, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, is this hereditary?
The fear.
Could this happen to her? Because I'm sorry?
Well, yes, the fear is there, and of course it's there. But it's, it's understanding that those patterns can be changed, all right? Mm-hmm. And just getting your child to focus on playing with energy. Play with energy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See how reality can be manipulated. How can they play with reality? Understanding metaphysics. If she dives deeper into metaphysics, it'll be easier. But we would say, have a connect. There are those that are her age that are just as sensitive, going through the same thing. Mm-hmm. There's lots online, so look there. All right, but really empower your child to play and explore creating and manifesting reality, just what we talked about. That would be our recommendation for all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, to feel empowered. Mm-hmm. You're very welcome.
Let her prove to herself that she does have the power to shift energy. And I have a daughter who's a little bit older than that, but went through some similar things, and teaching them about energy, as the P's are sharing, is so huge, because it does make them feel empowered, like they're not at the mercy of life around them or others. Mm-hmm. And well, Lisa, I'm grateful that you're here, and I'm grateful for your question, because I think a lot of people could relate. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The P's, there are a couple of questions in the webcast that feel important. Are you open to answering a couple more?
We are. If you've got the time, we can talk all day.
I do. Okay. Lisa, another Lisa writes in, or I believe it's another Lisa. When I hear raise my vibration, Lisa says, I get a little frustrated because I'm not exactly sure how to do that. Is there an easy way that you can suggest to raise your vibration?
Well, think about it this way. You know that happiness feels better than grief. All right, so thinking about happiness, imagining happiness is raising your vibration. It's not some elusive thing that you've got to figure out. It's just choosing a vibration that has a different hertz, and the hertz is higher in frequency. It's tuning the dial up. All right, that's all you've got to do. So imagining any of those things. Some days joy might feel way out of reach. If you're feeling really depressed, maybe you just want to feel content. Maybe content is high as you can stretch for that day, and that's great. That's higher. All right? Mm-hmm. So just strive for something that feels slightly better in the body. And it's imagining it. All right? It's not complicated. It's not some big meditation. It's not some 12-step ritual. It's imagine what you want to feel like. You've had that experience at some point in your life. It might have been when you were a baby. It might have been a while since you accessed a specific frequency, but you've had it. You've embodied it. So now you're just going in and imagining what it would feel like to you. Mm-hmm. And what joy feels like to you may not be the exact frequency that it feels like to someone else. Right. So just imagine what that feels like for you in your body, and that will get you there. All right? You're not going to stay there. That's the other thing. That's the other illusion we want to dispel. You're not going to go and stay there. Not a permanent condition, because you've got all kinds of subconscious beliefs that you've taken on, and they're not a matching resonance for that, and they're constantly, these frequencies, being sent out. They're like small little ripples on a pond. All right? When you consciously direct energy, it's like this big forceful wave that goes out. But these subtle frequencies are constantly being sent out to the universe, these subconscious thoughts. So when you consciously direct energy, you're overriding that. When you do that repetitively, it starts to become a habit. Once it becomes a habit, it starts to become a subconscious program and overrides. You are not feeding that lower energy anymore. You're feeding that new conscious belief. And so the old thoughts and beliefs just start to atrophy. There's nothing that you do to them. It's not like you uninstall them. They just wither away because you're not
Right.
feeding them with energy. So this is where the repetition and the imagination becomes so important. But what happens is that you go up to the higher frequency and you stay there for a bit, and then all the subconscious stuff starts vibrating to get your attention, to say, oh, we're down here. We're not fully in alignment with that just yet. And so you drop out, they get your attention, or you create something that's less than the highest expression.
Mm-hmm.
And you recognize it, and then you go back up. You say, oh, all right, well, I'm no longer up in that high space. I'm going to go back. Each time you go up, hopefully you go up a little higher and you stay a little longer, and each time you drop out, you don't drop as far and you don't stay down there as long.
Right.
And then eventually you'll go up and you'll stay up for longer stretches. It's like going to the gym and working out. You can't lift that heavy weight off the top of the bat.
Mm-hmm.
All right? You've got to work your way up, and then you do more repetitions, and then you use heavier and heavier weight. You're strengthening that muscle, and you're really strengthening your vibrational muscle.
Mm-hmm. I
right?
love
So
that.
Helps.
That was helpful. Yeah, strengthening our vibrational muscles, our imagination muscles, our creative muscles, and then it becomes more fun and more familiar. So thank you for that. And this is an interesting question. This gentleman would love your perspective on. Let me find it. Kevin, I'd love to know what the P's perspective is on stem cell therapy. I'm curious too. What is your perspective?
We didn't really see a problem with it, but you understand that it depends on whose stem cell it is. If it's your own, not a problem. If it was kept for you, but when you start doing transplants and things start crossing between people, you're taking the energetic templates along with it. This is why you've got donors who all of a sudden will start to take on the habits and the beliefs of the previous owner of that organ, because it's stored in the cellular memory. So same thing happens with food. When you eat food, how that animal was raised, how that plant was grown. Don't think it's just animals. Mm-hmm. Plants also have a consciousness and a matrix to them. So how they're harvested, how they were treated. Were they grown with loving kindness, or were they just plucked from the ground without any word or warning? So all that is shared. So we don't really see any problem with it. It's one way to get you there until you learn how to turn your own healing systems on. Once you learn how to turn your healing system on within you, it's not a problem. You all are still getting there. Sound therapy is the most powerful modality you've got on the planet still, working with tone and sound. So if you're looking to shift things, sound is exceptionally powerful, especially with the human voice and if you've got the right practitioner, because the intention that can go in the carrier wave of the sound is so powerful.
Beautiful. Thank you for answering that. And thank you, Kevin, for writing that in. And final question, JJ from Seattle. Many say that we are at the end of a large cycle. How do the P's see the new energy entering the planet? How do they see this new energy? Mm-hmm.
So it's light energy. You're moving through a sector of space which is rich with photonic energy. And it's like, think about a track that you run on. There's a start and a finish line. It's the same line, as it were, all right? But you're spiraling up the track, all right? You're going up a level. And every time you cross this line, and it's a sector of space in the universe, and you cycle around through it, as this happens, you are going through a rapid process of integration so that you can integrate anything that is kind of unresolved before you move on to the next level. Think about it like final exams at school before you go on to the next grade. It's kind of, in a sense, what you're doing. You're mastering your lessons and you're being tested on it. And, you've been in this space for a while. It's not... Think about the line on the track. If you got down there with a microscope, it's not a hard line. It doesn't have absolute defined edges to it. You know, the powder on the ground or the paint, it's a little fuzzy around the edge, and then as you get to the middle, it's very condensed with the paint or the light, and then as you move out, it starts to fade a bit. So it's, you know, you're moving into this sector. Now, it's been very difficult for us to predict how all this is going to go, because this is a nexus point where lots of timelines, if you will, lots of opportunities converge. You're tying up a lot of loose ends. And so, you know, if we were to look at a normal choice, you weren't taking big leaps in other lifetimes, where this lifetime, you know, the percentage of taking that leap on average might be 5%, and this time you're taking that 5% chance all the time. You know, you're taking those big life risks, those adventures. So it's difficult for us to tell collectively where you're going, and honestly, you know, this is played out in every way possible, and we're just trying to catch up with your consciousness and give you information that matches where your consciousness is putting itself. So, in other words, there are infinite versions of you, and you can put yourself on infinite timelines, infinite now moments. Your consciousness is only focused on one at a time. For this 3D version of reality, you focus your collective energies and your personal consciousness on a particular now moment, and then you string them together, and that gives you your illusion of time. So, as we digressed here, it's hard to predict, and we don't know when exactly you're going to choose. But you're already going through this process. It's not likely that it will be as it has been in the past, where there has been an intense moment and a shift has happened. There are other beings that are helping to slow this process down, because you're still really struggling as a planet with this. So we're helping as best we can without interfering too much, and so that's kind of slowing down the entire process. So it's not so dramatic, and it's giving you a chance to integrate in an easier way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. And we could go on and on with questions. There are many. But thank you, Pleiadian Collective, the P's, for all of your light and love and wisdom. And what are we going to be doing with regard to the activation or attunement today?
So there's really nothing that you need to know. So this is really to help you to calm the system. You know, some of you are spinning out a bit, to help you to really get back into flow with Mother Earth, flow with the divine energy, all right? And, you know, if you want to listen back to the recording and listening back to the activation, you can, but just know that the information is deposited in your field, so it's accessible to you. You know, just as we talked about earlier, you want to access it, get quiet, imagine accessing it. Use that imagination. It's a gateway to a lot of the higher frequencies. The higher creativity, if you will. Use the tool that you have with your imagination to access higher wisdom, to start there. So, again, nothing you need to know. Just relax, take a nice deep breath, and we'll see where we go.
Okay.
Ijukuta batujukuta atakate rabade bijukuta atakata elu wana mene bijukuta eza jutukuta ara rabade bijukuta atakate ena atakata badabirishka do rabade bir emono noikata hasana ala ora ebede bijukuta atakate bijukuta enta eza jutukuta ala ora ebede bijukuta hasa jutukuta bide monana kata hasa juta sasha uza jisa sasha tatakata. Ibe take a nice deep breath. Istona ara isha asakata ora ara iminana kotora. Isa shuna ala ara are ebata asa shuna are e. Hifana atakatai, hithala ara iminahai, hisa shatakata, hasana ala ora are e. Hisa shitakatai, hisa sashina ala ara umononoko, hifa tatashe.
إذا شكت على الرئيب إبدا أزجن أورا إلى ورا إندو أوزا جتكتب هيسا أنا للود إذا جدو أولي وانا من جكتا هي بدا بجكتا الوي نانانو بدا دا إي دا دوي بجكتا هيسا جدو لا نانو أنا من جكتا هيسا نانانو بدا إي دا هيسا جدو بجكتا الوي إن دا تكتا أساس جتتاي هيسا جتتاي. All right, take another nice deep breath. We've got one last round for you. All right, dear ones. So we'll go ahead and we'll leave you here, but feel free to connect with us directly. You don't need Wendy. Just ground, heart center yourself, ask your question and listen. And until then, we'll be watching and waiting and sending many well wishes.
Thank you so much. And we love you, and we thank you for your presence here with us today. Thank you.
Ta pleasure. Hello.
Welcome back, Wendy. How are you?
I'm great.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, it's interesting when you have them there. It's like, gosh, there's so many questions to ask, right? But I feel like we explored, quite a bit, and hopefully our listeners are feeling like there's. I feel like it's a call to listen to again, Wendy. There were a lot of layers to what they shared and what you shared.
There is, it amazes me. Everything goes back to the really simple things, and yeah, there is a lot in there. There really is, and the one thing that they say constantly is that to go through the ascension process, there really are only two things you need to do, and one is to be grounded, the other is to be heart-centered or to be present. To be present, you're heart-centered, you're present. They're one and the same. And they say if you do those two things, absolutely everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah. Well, and all of the things that you offer help people with that. I mean, there are different ways to support that, and so because I still have questions flowing in. So, Wendy, as we wrap up, how would you say that this beautiful offering that you've created would support people who are having some of these challenges, and just all these variety of challenges? How do you feel that this package would help them?
So I think what it does is it really helps you to recenter, to help you think about and kind of realign and put into practice what it is that you want to create, and really start to listen to yourself as far as where you're vibrating. Are you vibrating with what it is that you want to create for yourself? And, you're going through this with a group of people, and I think that's also of tremendous support because, people are going through the same things, and you can see all the comments and connect with others who are sometimes struggling, or, they're having certain things come up when they're working with the codes. Again, these things are very simple, but unless we are committed to taking action, it's where most of us fail. We don't have that support. We don't have that accountability. And I think that also is one of the things that this allows you to do, is to move through this in a very methodical way where that energy is building on a daily basis, and getting you to look at all these different little aspects of your life, which, you can do on your own, but most of us aren't doing that. So it kind of creates that pathway for you.
Exactly. We all need support, and that's why we do these shows, and that's why I can't help but notice when I'm looking at the 12 channelings and activations in the offer, it's regenerate, recalibrate, recode, reconnect, release, remove, And that's possible for all of us, and we really do need some support. And so anybody who feels called to take this further, this is a wonderful opportunity. And it's at a really reasonable price point at $97 with the 2-pay option that you can pay over 2 months. So Wendy, thank you for creating this, and it's called Recalibration and Activation of Your Divine Matrix. And Wendy, this has been fun. It's always like, what's going to come through today? And it was a joy to have you back. And yeah, it was beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. You have such a great audience. So, I couldn't do this without all of you. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I want to thank everybody who's joined us. We've had a big group here today, and I'm sure many more will listen. So thank all of you. I thank you for the tremendous gift of your light and presence and love and time. And if you joined us by computer live here today, please send us your comments and your feedback from the show. We love hearing from you. And then listen again as often as you like to receive more insights, lots of layers and frequencies available to you. I'm sending waves and waves of love and light and gratitude directly from my heart to yours. May you feel it, receive it, and offer it to those you encounter today or tonight, wherever you are in the world. And remember, if you want to feel a sense of community, you can join our Facebook group. It is a private Facebook group. Just type in Straight Talk for the Soul to connect with beautiful beings from this community on a daily basis. And until next time, as always, please give yourself full permission to shine instead of shrink, express instead of suppress, and own that amazing, powerful glow of yours. I'll see you back here in this playground of light next time, everybody. Bye-bye.